30 years now, and he teach in Weston and Fanshawe College as well. He had a lot of experience in the market as well, so he had hands-on experience as well. Dr. Ayman, would you please to start, and you can start to share your screen now.
Thank you, Engineer Ala.
You can see you now.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I will start. I believe you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. All right. Welcome, everyone. And for this presentation, I'm going to go in between English and Arabic, and let me know if you want to change at any time. If it is more convenient to anyone, just any questions or any discussions. I'm okay with both ways. So our presentation or webinar for today is about the construction industry, the Canadian construction industry challenges and opportunity. And there is always a question: challenges for construction industry. That's normal. Construction always has challenges, but what is the new? Do we have new challenges? And based on my experience over the last few years, 12 years here in Canada, so I did a lot of ICI projects, hospital, industrial warehouses, mid-rise buildings, condos, multi-tenants. So over the last 12 years, I've been through a lot of different projects on construction and ICI projects. I noticed there are new challenges, and our challenges now, mainly the new ones, mainly started at 2022 with the pandemic. So 2022, in March, I believe, we heard the news end of 2019 about this new virus, and early 2022, suddenly we understand there is a new impact of this new virus for the pandemic, which is lockdowns, shutting airports, shutting, working from home, new different life that we faced on 2022. And this had a lot of impact on our supply chain. So supply chain from China, across the border from the States, and because of working from home, no one working in mills or factories or no demand, actual demand on new products. So we suffered this lockdown, and it's impacted highly the supply chain. So for construction, supply chain for construction starts from the raw material, from going to manufacture, for distribution, for dealers, and at the end falls subcontractors and the builders. Through all of these 6 phases, there are challenges due to this supply chain, due to the lockdown, there is no available workers, or someone got COVID and they have to shut down the facility for 2 weeks until they are recovered. So we can see here the supply chain process that we have. Normally it's 6 steps, okay? And it varies from raw material, labor market, and equipment. And even for further, something like the microchips for the car industry, that's, it stops the whole car industry because of this microchips. So due to this pandemic, lockdown, supply chain, we have faced the worst recession ever since the Great Depression. Okay, so now people were laid off. All the projects stopped in construction, except for some minor project, maybe projects were related to gas and oil. Projects are in a certain stage that cannot stop because it's not safe, and any projects in Canada that were related to the health sector. Okay, so we had a great depression and a great recession on 2020. And now this has started to impact the economy. And for the economy, government had to make some actions to restart the economy again, to stimulate the economy again. So they proposed a kind of near zero interest rate, low cost loans. And this caused that a lot of money started to be coming very easy to everyone in early 2021. So this was great for the construction industry. So at this time, there was a lot of construction projects that started. Cost of borrowing money is very low. So for me or for anyone as an investor, you can just go to any lender or in any bank, get whatever you need with almost 1% or less interest rate. So that's an easy money, and everyone were looking for work at this time. Okay, so coming out of this pandemic and the supply chain issue, we started to see a very high demand with a shortage of supply because of the stop for this 1 year. Okay, so now construction is booming. That's great news. Perfect. We love it. Okay, but it has another cost. What is the other cost for this? Easy money, interest rate. This is going to cause inflation. So if we have low interest rate, we're going to have high inflation, a lot of money on the market. Okay, so what? What is the impact of this? If we look at this figure here, this is a relation between, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong screen on my computer. So if we are looking at the interest rate and the inflation, it normally goes parallel, goes together. Whenever you have low interest rate, the inflation going to go up. And to the pandemic, we had a flat, very low, near zero interest rate for almost a year and a half. So the inflation started to go up. While we still had this zero interest rate or near zero interest rate, inflation are going up to maybe 8%. And what is the issue of inflation? What is the impact? Okay, so who cares? 8%, 9%, who cares about this? There are a lot of impacts on our construction industry due to this high inflation. So inflation just from the state was in May this year is about 8.6 up to 9%. And this is the highest level in almost 40 years. What is the impact of inflation? Okay, so inflation going to impact our material cost, our fuel cost, on the living cost for labor. So this has a lot of impact. Okay, so we have inputs, machinery, transportation, technology. We have a lot of inputs on our construction industry. Okay, and all are impacted with this inflation. So let's go further and start to go through each one of these items on more details. So for this is a general overlook on the construction industry. We have a supply, we have a demand, we have a market condition, and this is going to create the need for our project or for new projects. But at the same time, we have transportation costs, energy, raw material costs, labor, and inflation. All of these are impacting the cost of projects. Okay, which is, if we go in details for material, rebars, cement, concrete blocks, all the aggregates, and for wood, for lumber, for aluminum, for roofing, and all the electrical and mechanical equipment in our construction project. So this is going to lead to increase on the construction cost, and this is going to impact the construction industry performance. Okay, so if we are looking at this Canadian cost guide from Altus Group, in 2020, the cost, for example, for the row townhouses was between $105 to $160 per square foot. This was in 2020. In 2022, the cost increased to almost $150 to $220. So it's roughly about 40% increase on the construction cost. Okay, so now we can see there are increase in construction cost, increases in all materials. As you see here, there is a huge jump on lumber and plywood and gypsum board, also steel pipes, and all the steel bars, fabricated metals, everything are going from almost 26% per year to year. So it's very huge jump. This is going to have impact on the total cost for any project and the budget for projects. So I will go back to our chart for the inflation and the interest rate. So now, in order to deal with this inflation, the federal bank for the states, and here the Canadian Federal Bank as well, they started to increase the interest rate. So they started maybe early this year with the increase with a very I can say it's a late start, because this start for increase should start at the same time when they saw the first sign of inflation. So they were almost a year behind. And at this time, when they started to increase the rate, the inflation maybe just last month or the month before started to decrease. Okay, so what is the impact of what is happening now on our construction industry? First, when we had the zero or near zero interest rate, borrowing money was very easy. Entering new project was very easy because I can establish a new project, and with easy money for me as an investor and also for the contractors and subcontractors. So high demand, high booming construction. Once you change this to a high rates and interest, and at the same time a high cost of material and construction industry high cost, this is going to change the whole market. So what is happening now on the construction market? It's very strange case, because for 2022, and I believe for the next year as well, you will see still a very high demand on construction projects. There are a lot of projects already started or going to start soon, and they already have deals on using the low rates loans. Okay, but at the same time, for the constructors, for the general contractors and the subcontractors, the cost is increasing very high. Okay, so what's going to happen? How is he going to manage this? That's a huge risk for everyone. Okay, so back again, for 2022 to 2023, my expectation, and this is what we are facing right now, there is a lot of demand. We cannot find qualified subcontractors. We cannot find skilled workers. Okay, but later on, when the inflation or the interest rate is going to go up high and high, potentially going to go to 5 or 6%, the economy going to start to shrink. And once this is going to start to shrink, maybe you're going to see some projects stop, some cancellations, okay? And at the same time, you will find a lot of laying off for labor and construction professionals. Okay, laying off of them. So this is going to create a very weird situation, because as of the next 2 years, 2022, 2023, we're still looking for labor for our market, and there is high demand. We assuming that 2024 to 2025, I'm not sure, that's just a forecasting and guessing for now, we're going to see shrinkage on the construction industry and a lot of project cancellations. And we already started to see this. So personally, I have some few projects that I was working on a pre-construction phases on them. And these projects are either put on hold for now or completely canceled. Okay. So let's move forward on our slides and see what is the impact on inflation and what will be the forecasted and where are the opportunities that we will see on the construction industry. I'm going to go through this. It's very clear that all the figures are going a sharp increase on the cost, especially with fuel. And fuel is not just for our cars, but think about all the materials are delivered to your site, and think about all the equipment are running on our site. So claims for extra cost, for additional escalation cost in construction industry are very high right now. Okay, because any subcontractors that, let's assume that earthworks subcontractor, they bid on a project on regular gas prices around plus or minus $1, and suddenly last May it was hitting the $2 mark. That's 100% increase. And for huge equipment, large equipment like excavator, loader, whatever, that's a huge consumption they have a huge consumption of fuel every day on site. So that's one of them. So inflation impacted the cost, impacted the material and the fuel cost and equipment. Also, there were some impacts on labor. So for the labor market, and here's from Statistics Canada, here is the distribution of labor on our market. We have 25% in new homes, 26% on renovation and maintenance industry, and 16 on the ICIs, 12 on non-residential, and 21 on professional engineering services. So this is the distribution of our labor market now. But because of the rising cost of living, we started to see a lot of strikes. Okay, for truck drivers, we have strikes. For equipment operators, we have strikes. For plumbers, for all the workers on construction, we have a lot of strikes, because now whatever they are getting is not equal to the inflation and the cost of living increases. So due to this, we have seen increases in cost for labor in different disciplines. So electrical, it's almost 10%, 10%, 14%. And some of you are going to say, hey, 5% and 10%, who cares about this? Or maybe that's minor. No, if you think about it in the big scheme of any project. So any construction project is about 65% material, 35% labor. So if we have an increase of the labor of about 10%, of the 35%, that's almost 3.5. And if you have an increase on the materials, let's say it's 10% of the 65, we're going to say we have almost an increase on the whole project cost 10%, plus increase on the interest rate by from 1 to 4 or 5. That's another 5%. So increases in a $100 million project just because of the inflation and the interest rate are maybe roughly speaking 15 to 20%. And here's a question mark. What is the overhead and profit for any project? It's between 5 to 8%. So what is happening now? It's a loss for any general contractor. It's almost gonna get a hit 3 times the profit they are making right now. And that's a huge risk. So continuing in this, and we're still talking about the labor and the workers on Ontario and on the Canadian market. And here where I see some light with whatever is going on now, we know that there is a lot of professionals and construction laborers are going to retire very soon in Ontario and Canada. And we need a lot of labor to replace them. Okay, so we always have a gap between the workforce that's leaving the construction industry and what we need for the construction industry. So if we are looking at some statistics, we are maybe looking at 80,000 they're going to leave, and we need another 20 to 40,000 to support the normal growth for Canada and for Ontario. But at the same time, we don't have enough labor and manpower coming into the industry, and that's creating a high demand on skilled trades and skilled worker and subcontractors. And here I see a lot of opportunities for a lot of companies right now, or for new companies or for new professionals. What we can do, or what anyone want to take advantage in and take this opportunity, they can start a new subcontractor work. They can start to learn a new skilled trade, like carpenter work or whatever, and they can hire some labor or a team, and they work as a subcontractor. And there is a very high demand on this right now on the market. Okay, that's a huge opportunity. And at the same time, because all of the other companies that's been in the market for the last 30 or 40 years, normally they are one-man show, or they're running by old guys that they want to retire and just enjoy their life. So there will be a gap between companies that is not working anymore and high demand for new subcontractors. And here where I can see some opportunities for newcomers and for our communities here to enter this market. I believe at any time, if you have any question, just stop me and let me know. Engineer Ala, please, if you can see the chat box, because I cannot see it now with sharing my screen. Let me know if anyone has any questions.
Sure, nobody yet.
Okay, thank you. So going forward, and this what I see that's happening for the market right now, subcontractor work. So if anyone want to take advantage from this, I'm not talking about 2023, I'm talking about for 2 or 3 years, just start your own subcontractor company and you will have a lot of opportunities. Okay, so question, it's always how we're going to mitigate this, how we're going to survive, how any general contractor is going to survive in this. First, you need a proper analysis for bidding. And this was strange because recently we were seeing quotations for work is valid only for a week. So normally, if you have a subcontractor, you do a request for quotation, you receive 4 or 5 of them from different subcontractors, and normally pricings are valid for 3 months. But recently, because of this inflation and the changes of pricing every day, we are seeing from our subcontractors a validation for prices for only 7 days. And I recall from one of subcontractors, he gave me 24 hours to approve their quote, or they will revise their pricing. So a proper cost analysis is very important. And the question now, it's very hard to predict what is happening with the future cost, because if we go back to the material cost, it's gone up very sharp, and suddenly there you're going to find a low demand and potentially pricing are going down. So this is a very high risk, and this risk we normally try to transfer it to the owner. So how we can make this risk transfer or risk sharing. So there are many ways for risk transfer and risk sharing in construction industry. And one of them is you need to ensure that if you are signing a contract with any owners, that you must state in your contract, subjected to price escalation. This was based on the price for as per this date, okay? And this was based on the labor cost as per whatever the awarding date. And later on, if the pricing gone up, you will be allowed to increase your pricing. So that's a risk transfer. Or you can make another one. It says risk sharing with either the owner or your contractors. You're going to state, hey, it is my cost. If the cost increase, we're going to share it, split it 50-50. Same for the subcontractor, you can do this. Another way you can mitigate the risk. Mitigating the risk, you can find your subcontractors, sign a deal with them, and give them a deposit and ask them to lock down pricing. Okay, so that's another way. Also, we have faced in Canada a decrease on the currency exchange rate. So a few months ago, US dollar versus the American dollar was around 1.2. And now it's yesterday was 1.36. So that's almost 10% decrease on the currency, the Canadian currency. But what is the impact? Impact is huge, because we have maybe more than 60-70% of the material and equipment we are using is coming from the States or coming from overseas, excuse me, from overseas. And this is going to affect the cost for importing or from getting from the States. So that's another load and another hit, another challenge on the Canadian construction industry. That's the exchange rate. How you can mitigate this? You can lock the deal with the owner for your project, saying, hey, all the pricing were based on a currency rate exchange as of whatever, there's this date. Any changes, you will be eligible to receive the delta or the difference. Same, if you are starting a new project and you have an access to a good cash flow, you can change whatever currency you have right now. Maybe you're going to need equipment from the States for $4 or $5 million. You can just change them at the first day of starting the project into a US dollar. And then this will not going to impact your project going forward. Another way is signing a deal with subcontractor. Try to mitigate the risk to them. They once you close a deal with subcontractors, they are responsible for securing their material. So again, a lot of risks, some opportunities, and that's the nature of our industry. Our industry is huge, so we are talking about $20 billion worth of industry in Ontario. And again, Ontario is trying to help for getting a new skilled trades on the market. And they have some programs for helping new companies in training new skilled workers. Okay. So this was basically, I know it's almost 40 minutes, but a quick summary for the current situation or the status of the construction industry right now in Canada. And now we're going to move to the second part of this presentation is about questions. We open the floor now for discussion, open discussion. If you have any questions,